Hey everybody, it's the Black Powder Beginner. And if you caught my video last week, you know that I featured the Smith Carbine. I did pretty well at the range. 8 of 16 shots hit paper for my first time shooting the rifle. But I wanted to do a little bit better. So I talked to my mentor, Mr. Keith, and took a little bit of advice from him as well as Oki from the range there. And there's a few things that I'm going to be changing. Not a lot, but a few things that I wanted to kind of focus on. So let's get started. Okay, so we're here at the table, and we've got some different things here this time. I went ahead and bought a scale for reloading, and I wanted to measure out the grains of powder for each case. Now I've done two here, and I just wanted to kind of check out how deep the bullet would go measured out. So it looks like with the black case, there is a felt wad in, and it looks like it sits out a little bit farther than I would like with the powder charge that I'm using. I have the aluminum case, and it's with the same amount of powder, have the same amount of step out. So it goes to right about, let's see. So it's about halfway in without a felt wad in the aluminum case. So I'm gonna measure out some more powder and just do a couple to kind of see, just to kind of show you what I'm doing and how I'm changing my approach to get a better shot on the range. So the powder measure is set at 40 grains. I don't know if you can see that or not, but I already have some powder here, which I'll take care of in a second. But and like I've said before, uh, black powder, and like I've been told, and like I have seen firsthand, black powder is a rabbit hole that is as deep as a black hole, if a black hole were to be measured in depth. But there's so many different things, so much detail that has to go into trying to get a great shot and have a great experience. And I mean, you can do like I have been doing, which is not being as precise as I would like to be only because doing stuff like this, it's a slow process. And I have historically had a very short amount of patience. Now, of course, that's going to look short, right? So let's do this. You know what? Let's pour this excess in here. So let's power this up. And I have already calibrated this. So it should measure out pretty good. So the what would you call this? Let's see. I don't know. The little cup thing. I'll just call it the little cup thing for now because I can't think of what you were supposed the pan, the measuring pan, 4.104.9. Oh, it's moving. Let's take it off. Knock off any excess. Try to make sure we sit it directly on the star and don't shake anything. Looking like 104.9, well, 0.8. And you see the GN is that's for grains. So 104.9. So if this is 40 grains, it should end up being 144.9. And short, 142.3. So we're so that ends up being, call it about 7 grains short. So let's just kind of work a little bit in. Oh, shoot. One 149.9. Oh, shoot. Now I did it. Take a look. Now, see it. Now it's showing. You know what? And I had some powder right here in this thing I forgot was there. Okay. So this is something that I don't like. And maybe it's because of the surface. Yeah. So let's do this. Let's clear it out. And let's just calibrate it again. Just to make sure. Press the calibration. That should flash. Wait. And pass. All right. Now let's try this again. Oh, now that's grams. Since we're not doing grams, oops. Now see what I just did? I just messed it up. So let's try this again. And this is the type of stuff. Okay. Pass. Zeroed out. It's on grains. It's on grams. Now it's on grains. And that would end up being more than what we need it to be. So let's do this. Let's start from the beginning. Okay. So 104 point. So with this scale, it seems like it's very iffy about the weight if it's not completely centered inside of that circle that's on the plate. So now it's reading 105.0. And this is what you get when you have this thing was $16. So it's not going to be perfect. You see it's jumping, but it's sat at 105.0 for the longest. So now showing 105.2, fine. So 40 grains would be 145.2. So let's just work it a little bit in slowly. One 32, 140, 143, 144, 145. So 145.2. So this would be considered 40 grains of powder scaled out. So let's take this and wait. Turn that off. And before I make a mistake, and continue on with my routine, which is add a small circle. That's quite a few circles. And I don't necessarily believe that if I put more than one, that it won't fire. But I'm just going to let that kind of marinate in there. Just kind of slide in and I'm going to take a closer look. Looks like it's covering pretty well, covering the hole. Don't see any light coming through. Slide that in there. And if you can look at that and see, tap it down just a little bit. And it's falling out. Dang it. Let me just. And I think what I'm doing is when I pour, so now of course that's going to be slightly short. Yeah, no. Let's try that again. And I need a little flashlight. Jeez. Oh, yeah. I see a little bit of light. So what you have to be aware of is that how you pour the powder in, because if you pour the powder kind of like to the side, like going down the side, it'll actually push that little cover. It'll push it over, as well as if you tap it too much, it'll move. The pressure of the powder doesn't really give you the holding power that you need until you press the bullet down. And I just figured that out. So now we're a little short. 143.2. So we lost about 2 grains of powder in that little nonsense. 144.7, 8. There. Nope, overshot it just a little bit, but not supposed to be perfect. Let's just try to make sure we get the powder kind of centered down. Okay. Lightly tap it just to kind of even it out. We'll take a lubed 515 lead bullet without the wad. This time we're doing it without the wad. And just push it down in. And what I'm doing, and maybe I shouldn't do this, but it's kind of, powder is so expensive. Let me try to save every drop that I can. But maybe I shouldn't do this. I don't want to deform the tip, but I want to make sure that it's properly packed down. So I'm just going to take my little small hammer and just kind of take a towel, kind of absorb any force. And give it a few taps. The nose is still in good shape. Got powder all on here. Jeez. Yeah. This is not a clean sport, so just wipe the edge. And it's actually pretty much the same depth, with or without the felt wad. So not bad. Not bad. So and the process is the same with the aluminum cases. The difference is that at what I've noticed is the well, I'll show you. And it's quite something. It's quite something to see. But what I'm noticing is that the aluminum cases are actually shorter, just slightly shorter. Well, maybe not. Maybe they're not shorter. But you'll see, well, you'll see my concern in just a minute. Let's turn it on. Now it's showing 105.1. So, like I said, it's not. If you try to go for what I'm noticing and figuring out is that when you try to go for perfect numbers flat across the board, I mean, it's possible. I'm sure it's I'm sure it's possible, but the problem is for me, it'll drive me insane attempting to come up and produce the exact same numbers every single time. So I'm just trying to get it into a ballpark. So that ends up being slightly over 35 grains. So that does show you, well, overshot that just a little bit. Jeez. But that shows you how inaccurate that pour is, and you can see that you saw that it was kind of short in the powder measure. It's still a little bit over 146. We're looking for 145. Trying to get the powder centered. So that's about a half a grain over, I suppose. So close enough. Oh, wait. About to make a mistake. About to make a mistake. And what I'm thinking is and grab it. Well, I'm wondering if this little circle is really necessary, but I carry these in a cartridge box. And so if it's shaking around, I just don't want half my powder charge to come flying out. Let's see how that looks. I'm gonna give it a couple of small taps. And last week I used the same amount of powder for both the aluminum, brass, and black plastic cases. So and I did try to anneal these. These are actually new cases because I wanted to have more than just four. They worked fairly well, so but I didn't anneal them good enough, I suppose. So that's as far as I can get it, right? Once again, we'll try this and we'll just gently tap it. And that's, oh, well. And working it down. Now I'm going to try to work it down to the same point as the first one. Trying to make sure that I don't damage the nose. Okay, so that looks to be about, yeah, just about the same. And the tip is still intact, it's still flat, just like one that has not been tapped on a little bit. And there you have it. So when looking at them, I think with the black, I'm coming to the conclusion that with the black plastic case, the The felt wad is kind of optional. You know, you can add one if you want to, or not add one. I don't believe that it changes anything, especially when you have the powder at the way the powder is. So I think what I'm going to do is not use a felt wad. So I'll have this one. I'll have this one, and I'm going to mark it. I'm just going to put a little mark in it. And so I'll put a little F in there. Kinda. That'll let me know that this one has the felt wad and the rest of them do not. So, with that being said, I'm going to do the rest of these. I'm not going to feature the brass cases because there's still work that I need to do opening up the flash hole in the bottom of the brass cases. So I have not done that yet. That'll be something that I do in the near future. But for right now, I have eight um, eight aluminum cases, and I have 10 of the black cases. So another 18 shots. I have some more black cases coming. So if they come before I go to the range, then I'll probably load those up. And then it'll end up being 28 shots. But the next thing, and I don't know if you see it or not, but I'm going to feature, once I get done doing this, there was something to change the subject. There was something that I noticed. And if you looked at my last video, you'll notice it too. I attempted to fire the shot, and the shot didn't fire. It wasn't a brass case. I believe it was a black case, but it did not fire. What I said was that the musket cap wasn't seated. That was not true. What I discovered is, and what Mr. Keith confirmed by watching, and the same thing that I confirmed by rewatching the video, was that the hammer strike was not strong enough to set off the cap, because that actually happened more than once. You just only saw it one time on the video. So what I have is a Smith Carbine mainspring. We're going to see if that changes the hammer strike, which it should. But you know what? Let's work on that now. Be right back. Okay, so we've got the cartridges done, and now we're going to move on to changing out mainsprings. So I'm going to take, and I'm just going to say this, I have never done this before. Well, never done this before with this rifle or any other rifle, to be honest. So this will be a new experience, but I'm going to take the sling bar, unloosen that. And take that screw out that I don't know what it's called. end screw. Just kind of work it back and forth and take that. So we'll have a little bit less surface area to work with. All right. We can take the sling bar off, which just unscrews. I know what I need to do. And like I said, the very first time I got this rifle, which was a couple weeks, like 2 weeks ago, I took this rifle apart straight away, like I had had it for years. But today really has not been the best day for me when it comes to mechanically. Let's just say that. That goes out. Well, there you have it. So, what I basically learned is that this one screw, see how long it is, holds the buttstock to the action. So it doesn't just hold this plate on because there's a screw at the top that holds the plate on as well. It holds everything, basically the wood to the metal. So with that being said, it doesn't look like it's in bad shape. Now the question becomes, how do we take this off? And I know this mainspring is under a lot of tension. It looks like the screw has been messed with before. So we're gonna loosen it just a little bit, try to relieve a little bit of the tension. trying to get trying to get some pressure on it, but if I put it in full cock, that'll relieve some. It's probably gonna put a lot of pressure on it. Well, this screw right here holds that bar in. Okay. It looks like it looks like the trigger spring has got a little bit of dinging to it. Like I said, I didn't get this far into it. And I think I have some liquid winches. You can see it's a lot of some rust in there. I'm sure this is not going to come off without this coming off first. So let's see if we can kind of get some work going. Get a little bit of, try not to spray it on the head of the screw or the bolt. Okay, there's your secret. Well, I just figured out something quite simple and obvious, but it didn't occur to me in all of this time that I just did this, and that is this whole action when you're taking this apart is predicated on the nipple being out of the rifle. So I guess the nipple is kind of like a safety switch, so to speak, because when I finally remove the nipple, and you can see in the other, in you know, you can see before when I first started taking this apart, that the nipple was still in. It should not have been still in because as soon as I took the nipple out, and it fell just a few more inches. You see how all of this is loose now. Whole action is loose. Oops. The hammer action, everything is loose. And this screw coming out. So it looks like, in actuality, the nipple should be the first thing to come out and the last thing to go in. And it also looks like the hammer is all one assembly that does not come out. In actuality, kind of looks like maybe the hammer spring needs to be replaced as well. Question would be, how the hell does that come out? I don't even want to know, but I'm going to find out. And it looks like I might be able to just lift it out. Well, you probably have to. It looks like the trigger stays in the action as well. Yep. Huh. Well, ain't that something? That's pretty. Oh no, it doesn't. There's a screw right there. So I probably should have taken this screw out and then taken this out. But that's a pretty that's a pretty cool setup for it being, and I'm sure it's, because this is a modern reproduction. I'm sure it's been kind of altered a little bit to, excuse me for shaking the camera, but altered a little bit to kind of improve. But that the I'm sure that the I wonder if no, I'm not going to bother it. What I am going to do is dry. And I know I'm shaking the camera, but I'm just kind of leaning on the table to kind of steady my arm. I'm just going to kind of dry that off just a little bit. It doesn't need to be as oily as it is. Now that I'm seeing how the action works, yeah, it doesn't need to be that oily. How it really works. Now this could be a little that brass type. Oh shoot. You know, get a lot of that. Use the Q-tips to get a lot of this gunk out of here. I'll also use a Q-tip hinge. Just kind of making sure that the mating surface is not all gummed up. Yeah. It's pretty gunked up. What I'm not going to do is put any type of water on it. All I'm doing is getting the surface dirt off. Just with a good, kind of dry wipe. And then I'll take it in with a little bit of oil and just wipe down the metal. And I'm not going to put a lot where the spring goes. I'm just going to kind of wipe some in and wipe some out. Light coat, more like a protective coat. I'll say that. The same thing for these springs. I'm not going to saturate it. Take a Q-tip and just kind of put a little bit on there. I'm going to start putting everything back together. Putting a little bit on there. Now for the trick. Putting everything and please, I'm not gonna sit here and act like I'm a pro and I'm teaching you anything. But for me, it's a learn by doing type of thought process. So the hardest part is putting everything back together. And I don't know if that's right or not. I believe that is proper. We're gonna see. We are going to see. Fresh mainspring. Get some anti-seize out of there. A little bit. A little bit. Threads. A lot of bit on the threads. Okay. And a lot of that is gonna come off. And I got this mainspring while I'm still doing it. I got this mainspring from Dixie Gunworks. So if you're in the market for a mainspring, please check them out. And I don't think that's, yeah. Huh? No? I don't even remember which way yeah. Yeah. Here. There's a little nub. I think you can see it. Hook that do an underhook. And then we might want to put the screw in straight. These. And I apologize for shaking the camera, but it's fairly difficult to do things without, kind of leaning on the table. I have the camera kind of hooked to the table, but anyway. Okay. Cool. Okay. Yeah. That's gonna work out pretty well. And I really don't know. There. Still kind of loose, but okay, so I've done something wrong because it's not clicking in any type of position. Oh, I know what I did wrong. Dang it. And I'm sure, Miss Keith, if you're watching this, I'm sure you saw it before I just saw it. But I did see it. I'm sure you saw it as soon as I did it. But I see it now. That part. That. And this is why I probably should never attempt to be a gunsmith. I'm sure it would take me 1,000 years to get you guys, to get my customers weapons, firearms put together properly. Let's see. And I really don't want to remove that trigger, but I might have to. How would I? Okay. This. Try to see if I can. Put that back in there. Try to see if I can fit that back in there correctly. That. Yep, that should be it. Okay, now. underhooks. Oh, and this has a little. Oh, that's cool. And it has a little. I have to figure out. Underhooks. All right. Let's put a little dot of lubricating oil on there since I already put the NICs down the threads. I'll whip up some lubricating oil. Let me put that down. And hopefully we can just reassemble this Smith Carbine okay. So got that there. Now let's clean these threads off a little bit. It was a beast getting them out, and then put kind of work them into the threads, and I tend to like to go a little bit further and just put a dot of lubricating oil on there as well. Now I know how to replace the buttstock if I ever want to replace it. And then here. No. I mean, for this being the design from the 19th century, it's a pretty amazing design. Like, another near bad move on my part. That on there. You know what's even better that I should do? since the butt plate is gonna have to go on. Might as well get it secured first. Then we'll work on this buttstock screw, which it feels like it's going to be a beast to try to get back in. Back in there. Okay. It's kind of, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna, right? There. That little click should signify that it got into the threads. But I had a really hard time getting this screw out of here. And yeah, it's gonna so it's kind of difficult working around the camera mount, but and with me kind of freestyle holding everything, geez, trying not to, oops, I'm trying not to shake the camera too much, so just forgive me if the camera's being shaken to the point where you're getting seasick. I apologize, but I'm trying to get this in with the minimal amount of fuss on my end. With this screw, you really have to kind of, it's powering and then it's going and then it's not. I think the threads on the action side weren't stripped or anything, but I think they were kind of gummed up. Maybe I should have run some hot water through it, but I didn't want to, be rushing through and miss some water, and it ends up turning into a massive amount of rust, and I can never get this screw out. Okay, that looks to me to be pretty good. Yeah, that's as far as she's gonna go. Okay. Now let's put Dab of oil on that. Okay. Now let's see how it works. Cool. Oh, oops. Yeah. What I think I'm going to have to do is eventually change out the hammer screw as well. But for now, it was said to have a pretty heavy trigger pull, and it does, and I like it that way. I like being able to pull the trigger, and I'm really pulling the trigger. So it's got some lubrication still there. I'm going to leave that like it is. And okay. Well, one more time. Yeah, much better. Oh, that's what I learned. So when you're doing a hinge screw, and that's not for all hinges, but for this in particular, you tighten it up till it's tight and then back it off like a quarter turn. And that quarter turn gives it a little bit more flexibility when you're swinging it open. Just a little bit. I don't want it to be like too loose where it swings down real hard and claps on the something. So all right. Yeah, that hammer cock is pretty strong. Okay. All right. So that this last little bit, put some anti-seize on the nipple itself. And then get this in here the right way. And then we'll be ready for the range. So see you in a little bit.